Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Tiffany Tucker. I am here from an invite from Sora, and I'm very happy to be presenting with them today. So my presentation is how digital books help reinvent reading personalization district-wide. And I was very excited to present about this because we have had a lot of unique uses with Sora, especially this year. So I'll just go ahead and get started. So just a quick presentation overview. I'm going to talk briefly about what is Sora. I'm going to talk about special needs and unique reading communities in our schools, how we have promoted Sora, and how we have gotten funding for Sora in our district. So Sora is an Overdrive product. It provides ebooks and audiobooks for libraries. It's designed for student and school use. So some of you may be more familiar with the Libby app that's through your public library. And so it's very similar to that, but in the school libraries, we can set user content access levels so that high school students have access to different materials than middle or elementary school students. So that's a really cool feature. Just continuing on. The app itself is free. You are only paying for the content that you purchase, and the publishers determine how the books can be purchased or the lending models. That can get a little bit confusing, to be honest. There's metered access, there's one copy, one user, there's different ways that that can happen. And so once you get accustomed to using Sora and what's happening, it becomes jargon that you're used to. But anyway, we also do recommend a main point person or a main administrator at your school or district to take the lead with Sora. So in my district, we have one main person, and then we also have a lead at each level. So there's a high school lead, that's who I am, a middle school and an elementary school lead. And it just helps to have somebody who's really knowledgeable and available to do Sora stuff. Really great Sora features. You can do high contrast feature for the ebooks. There's also a dyslexic font feature. Some titles are available as read along, where you can have the text highlighted and the audio going at the same time. Audiobooks are read by a human voice, frequently by a skilled voice actor or the author, to be really engaging. And users can adjust the audio playback speed in audiobooks and font size in ebooks. You can also connect to public libraries or other available libraries like Audiobook Sync. When you first set up Sora in your district, you have the option to automatically connect to your public library's holdings in Sora or Overdrive. We chose not to do that. It's really easy to do, though, if they have a public library card. And then there's achievement badges as well. This next slide shows what high contrast mode looks like. This is the black with the white font. You can also do gray font. And there's also sepia tone that's a little bit of a different color. And then over here on the right-hand side, you can see the difference in the dyslexic font feature from the regular font. So just a quick word on audiobooks. If you have any teachers that don't think audiobooks are still reading, I encourage you to educate them or educate yourselves. I have lots of teachers at my school who love audiobooks. I'm a huge audiobook fan, and you can do it on your daily commute. You can do it while you're eating lunch. You can do it while you're cleaning your house. And so audiobooks have those options for students as well, especially great for reluctant readers. So some of the most beneficial uses that we've done for Sora over the last couple of years, we launched our Sora collection in 2020 in October. So we have not had it for very long, but we have had some really great uses out of it. So student support services, special ed, RTI, summer school, and assistive technology have been places that we have really been successful in using Sora in unique ways. So I have had multiple requests for an audiobook for a student with an IEP. Like, this child needs this book in audio for their IEP, for this curriculum book that they're reading, and we are often able to get that for them. And it's more convenient than having a book on CD or even a file that they have to get from some other place. So we've also had several teachers ask about audiobook options for them to play in their class. So for example, Last year at my old school, we had a group of teachers that wanted to read Just Mercy, and they wanted to use the audiobook Some for their class. And so we got 3 copies of the audiobook and checked that out to each of the teachers, and they were able to use it in their classroom, and they loved it. I'm telling you, the audiobooks are really engaging most of the time. I did the same thing this year with a reading interventionist. He wanted the kids to read some, he wanted to read to them some, but then he wanted the audio option. So I was able to get a book. And Restart is really a little bit of a younger book for high school, but to meet the needs of those kids, it was perfect. This also, the great thing about Sora is allowing student choice, meeting the reading level, and then having options for gaining credit or making up credit. Our school system has its own summer school program, and it's all virtual. They had to make it virtual during COVID year, and they continue to keep it that way. So for the ELA curriculum over the summer, we provide all of the ebooks or audiobooks for that program through Sora. So the kids don't have to be at a certain place to do their ELA curriculum makeup. They can just do that there. And our reading interventionist gave me this great testimonial that I'll read really quickly. The audiobook through Sora has been very important in my endeavor to help students with their reading comprehension. Many students who have a problem with their comprehension admit that they are not readers. The audiobook allows me the opportunity to draw those students into the story quicker, and I've seen an increase in comprehension scores because they are sucked into the storyline. So I really love that. The most unique thing we've done with Sora, in my opinion, this year is sports team read. So our boys basketball team used Sora audiobook for a team read. We were able to get 100 copies of Toughness by Jay Billis for, I think it was under $200. It may have been 200 something dollars, but it was very reasonable for the 100 copies. So it is a metered access copy, so they do run out. So we've got about 70 copies left right now, but we checked them out using title assignment. So the kids had them for a longer amount of time, so they only had to use one checkout of those. And we still have some other schools that have kind of shown interest in doing that with their basketball team in future years. And I know that there are books out there for every sport, and the relationship that a coach and a player has is a little bit different than a teacher or a parent. So it's just a really cool opportunity. And I was really proud of our coaching staff because they were really into reading, and they wanted to share that love of reading with their players. So I'm not going to read you this whole testimonial from the basketball coach, but it was really great. And he made a few great points in here. He said having that audiobook on their phone, I mean, they had it with them all the time. They could, you know, when we were riding to a game, they could be listening to the audiobook because they have it right there on their phone. And he, especially the last 2 lines, I will read those that are underlined in bold. Group discussion served as much more than a book review. They often led to thought-provoking group talk that allowed teammates to connect in ways that are often difficult to do on the court. If I have any regrets, it's that we didn't do this sooner. And so I hope that other sports teams in my school will pick books that we might be able to get them the same way. Of course, there are limitations because we couldn't get the ebook for that price, but it also opened up this opportunity for those players to realize that audiobooks is still reading, and they can still get the content that they need by listening. And a couple of the players have come in and asked about additional audiobooks for their class curriculum. So we thought that was definitely a win. So some ways that we did Sora district-wide. This is when we opened the collection. We did a lot of hype leading up to when we put Sora out to all of our students. We did a Sora is coming promotion, and then some of the schools even did launch parties in their own schools, like with donuts or whatever for breakfast that day. Sora is great about giving you marketing tools that you can just use. They're ready-made, or some of them are customizable, so it makes it really useful for their marketing kit. I've linked that here. The same year that we launched Sora, we did the Reading Without Walls Challenge by Jean Luen Yang. And we just added read a book in Sora or listen to an audiobook in Sora to the challenge under the format category. So one of the things to the Reading Without Walls challenge is read a book in a format you don't normally read. And so that could be like a book in verse, but we also said it could be an ebook or an audiobook. And that really helped a lot of the students to do that reading. And we did the Reading Without Walls Challenge that year program, K through 12, and it was pretty successful to use because it really allows for a lot of student choice. And we liked that we worked in Sora into that too. We also promote it a lot through our teachers. If teachers are familiar with Sora and are using it, they are going to be talking about that with their students. A lot of our teachers do use Libby, and so just sort of explaining to them that it's pretty much the same thing, but just a different way of getting it, getting the content, and that we have more and different content within our school district, so they may not have to wait as long to get something in our school district. We also have Friends of the Library groups in our Schoology platform, which Schoology is our learning management software. So one of my peer librarians says she just constantly spams the kids with, you should read this book, or we got this new book, or I just read this audiobook through their Schoology pages. So that's one other way. And then lastly, we have started some loose collaborations with our public librarians in our area. And they, as I've mentioned, are more familiar with Libby. But once we started talking to them about Sora, the students are accessing their Libby content through the Sora app. So it's really very much the same. It's just how they're getting the content. It's a different app that can sync with both ours and the public library's account. All right, lastly, I'm going to talk briefly about funding. So we have to get site-based money from our district to fund Sora. So each school gets money from our district, and then we can choose to put some of that money back into Sora every year. That has worked okay. It's not perfect because some schools decide not to give, and their kids still do have access to it the way we have ours set up. So, but it has worked pretty good. We are trying to get the county to put aside a little bit of money every year for Sora before it hits the schools, so that we know that we have some budget there for that. But there are enough librarians who realize that it's really useful that put enough money in to make it work. The first year, if you're going to launch Sora, I would say you need at least $2 per student to build that collection. And then they recommend that you have 50 cents to $1 per student after that to maintain the collection. But we really feel like we've done okay with our about $1 per student, really probably 50 cents per student when you take out the schools that don't contribute. And we've been able to be pretty happy with that. We like to remind the librarians when their budgets are released. So like in August or September, we say, hey, don't forget if you haven't contributed to Sora. And then I also remind them again around this time of year, because all of our budget stuff has to be turned in by February 28th. And so they might find that they have some money left over. And as with most districts, you probably know, if you don't spend the money in your site-based account, that money goes back to your district and it disappears. But if you go ahead and put that money into Sora, it's like a gift card that you get to keep until you spend it. So we try to say that to the librarians too, like, if you know that you're going to run out of money, give some to us and it stays there until we have a use for it, which is all the time. So, and it's also good, like a little bit here and there can really add up. So if every school gives, $70 or $100 at the end of the year, that's a really nice chunk to start with for the summer or when all the award winners start coming out. And lastly, I say to highlight your needs using data. So you can send data to your schools that say, like, here's how many students checked out a Sora book last year or whatever. And Sora staff is really great about helping you understand the numbers or getting you data. And I know that principals really love data and love when students are reading. So they can help you get some information that can be useful for you during that. One of my favorite features of Sora is that it counts how long you are using the app. So like since our inception of the app in 2020, I have spent nearly 26 days reading in Sora, and it shows the days, the hours, and the minutes that you've spent in Sora. And so that concludes my presentation today. I'm sorry that it had to be so quick. I could have spent many more minutes talking about Sora with you all, but if you have any questions, I'll be welcome to introduce those at this time.